The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Fastermy, good afternoon. We're on Mannin Line, open line through till 1 today, so call 66 13 68 to get on the air, to have your say. Text and WhatsApp 166 177 or email studio@manxradio.com. So, have you tried to book a doctor's appointment lately? If so, how did it go? Well, we've had various messages and people calling Mannin Line just saying it's very difficult to get a GP appointment. But the curious part is that when they sometimes get through and head in, the waiting room is almost empty. So where are all the patients if there aren't any appointments left? And when people can't get seen, inevitably they're turning to the out-of-hours service, meds, or even heading straight to ED, the emergency department, what we used to call casualty, because they just don't know where else to go. And surely that isn't what the system was set up to do. Not to send people who've got routine ailments and, a bit of a problem to the emergency department. Hence, some of those late-night long queues at the emergency department. So if you've had some sort of experience, I'd just like to know what it's been like for you. Then call 66 13 68. If you've not been able to get a GP appointment, so you go to meds, calling the late-night service, what's happened? And bluntly, how do you feel about it? We'd like to know. We're trying to find out what it's like. But is this just a few kind of rogue happenings, or is it happening all the time? And a group of residents, People Power in the South, a group of residents from the South are calling for the bus service, the 28, to be restored as soon as possible to some of the most key tourist destinations on the... We'll be getting cruise liners soon. And when those cruise passengers come in, if they want to go to Craignish, if there isn't a bus planned or a bus or a coach tour going to Craignish and they try and get a bus, fat chance. Yesterday, 70 people attended the Save Our Craignish bus coffee morning in Port Erin to discuss the discontinued route which served Craignish and the Sound. 70 people. That's some turnout for what is ostensibly a kind of minority bus service. The vast majority of people on the Isle of Man don't go to the Sound. Occasionally you might go. Occasionally you'll go to Craignish if there's something on. That's taken as read. It's a bit like the horse trams. The majority of people don't use the horse trams, but they're there, and for our tourists and for the people on the Isle of Man who use them, they're very welcome. And they are iconic, as is Craignish. So what do we do? Let's get to the lines anyway. That and anything else. We're open line today, so whatever's on your mind, by all means, just throw your two penneth in. Mike's first with us. Hi, Mike.
How you doing, Andy? You all right?
Very well, thanks.
Just a quick one today. I was going along Ridgeway Street last week in the taxi, and I noticed on the little island between the HSBC and Colburns that there was an ANPR camera set up there. Thought nothing of it. So I get home at lunchtime today and I open the letterbox and I've got a warning, unlicensed vehicle notification. Your photograph was taken at 9:54 on the 23rd of the 4th. The point being, there's a road tax disc or a vehicle license disc on my vehicle dated 31st of the 8th, 25. So obviously their systems aren't up to date. I've rang the number, couldn't get anybody, and I've left a message. I'm actually just curious whether there's anybody else that had one of these notifications falsely sent through the post, because it's going to be a heck of a lot of money spent on bureaucracy, sending letters out and chasing it up if their systems aren't up to date.
What's the letterhead? Who was the letterhead? Who was it from?
It's the Vehicle Licence Centre.
Right, so that's DOI.
The Centre, infrastructure.
Yeah.
Driver and vehicle test code is with a telephone on it. Because computer systems with all the records up to date, So
well, I'd like to know then. So, and just let's confirm this: your tax is up to date. It is the 25th of the 8th, is it? You say
31st of the 8th, 25 is my tax disc. In fact, 2 weeks ago, my vehicle was in the vehicle test centre having its annual roadworthiness test as it's a taxi. So if there had been no tax on it, they wouldn't have tested it. So it's a bit of a funny one. This, but
it doesn't inspire you with confidence, does it? If the thing is, taking number plates and it can't reference the fact that you've got road tax.
Well, that's my point. And how many of these letters are going to go out falsely if their computer systems aren't up to date? It's gonna cost us, the taxpayer, a load of money again that could be invested in the health service, isn't it?
Yeah, and as you say, just to reiterate that, more to the point, you called the telephone number to sort it out and nobody picked up the phone. No.
I left a message on the answering machine saying that if they want a copy of the tax disc, give me an email address and I'll send it through.
Okay.
But yeah, all right. Good fun, isn't it?
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Andy.
Thanks. Right. Good to hear from you. What about that, ANPR? Have you spotted that on the island just by Colburn's? And what used to be the HSBC, what is it now? Nothing really, isn't it? Lots of people have tried to do something with that. So, this group of residents from the south who are wanting the 28 back, in the absence of the service, the group members say that they've helped transport visitors around the area, but it really shouldn't be their job to do it. And I wonder what you think about this.
The Minister is very involved in this and very knowledgeable about it, and indeed the Speaker was at our event today. It's extraordinary to me that certainly one of our top 10 visitor attractions, there is no way to get there if you haven't got a car. And if you come by train, there's no connecting bus service. And it just seems absolutely wrong and a massive missed opportunity.
I was talking to somebody just now who has got a relative who lives in Craignish, and she walks down into Port St Mary every day to get the bus. Surely there should be some sort of bus service. If they can run bus services Derby and out to Niarbol, why are we being penalised? I'm a member of a dance group and we go and perform at Craignish. We go up at Hoptune, we go up for May Day, we go up whenever, basically we go up. And people say, oh, where are you dancing next? Like, well, we're dancing at Craignish. Oh, I can't get there. I've come in on the train sometimes, left my car in the car park here, come back from Douglas on the train, talking to people. Oh, we're going up to Craignish. Well, how are you getting there? Oh, so you put them in the car and you take them there, but it shouldn't be down to the residents to do that, to keep our visitors happy. And visitors are important.
There's a lot of public support. And if you have something with a lot of public support in a democracy, you do it. So we need a restoration of this bus service as soon as possible. It's really urgent.
Krista, who's been vocal about reinstating the service, says there is a demand. And in the interim, a taxi owner has come forward to assist.
Involving an interim shuttle, I would be very happy, to be honest. Well, let's see whether we can figure out something.
There's a problem here, and I'm just trying to help out. In the meantime, while the tourists are around town, it's just filling the gap as an option to get them to the Sound, Craignish, and return again, sort of thing. But this is not a profitable thing in my case. It's sort of I'm wanting to sort of, if I can help out, I've got a bus there, I'm free to do it. I'm just trying to fill the gap.
So is that what we're left with? Volunteers taking people to one of the most iconic tourist spots on the Isle of Man. It's very laudable that gentleman is doing that. Very laudable. But is it beyond the wit of something to happen? If there are a group of tourists who want to get to Craignish and they get on the steam train in Douglas or elsewhere, they just tell the booking clerk, we'd like to go to Craignish when we get to Port St Mary, and one of these hopper buses could be waiting at Port St Mary to take them to Craignish and go back in an hour or 2 hours' time and do the return journey. Has nobody thought of what we can do to maintain connection to one of our most iconic tourist spots? Does the Minister of Government Efficiency have the number of how many kettles there are and how many kitchens in government buildings when they have constant boiling water stations next to them? I wonder how much of taxpayers' money is literally keeping the water boiling all day. Frank Thank you for pointing that out. Why is the Department of Education allowing to keep this report and inspections secret? Parents and guardians have a right to know how the school and the teaching staff are performing. Maybe the report is so bad it has to be kept quiet. The department is marking its own homework. Francini on 762. This is the story of this education report that we're not allowed to see because, well, we don't know. Do you remember when it was all about transparency at the last election? Power cuts in Spain. Is this something that we can look forward to? This is another net zero disaster, says to. They don't quite know, do they, what caused this in Portugal? But it will be interesting to know from the authorities here if there's something went wrong in England and our interconnector got turned off, whether or not we can survive. ANPR vehicle recognition isn't worth the money if the paperwork isn't up to date. This is another half-hearted project by our government, says Tony. Well, it'll be the computer software, wouldn't it? Because presumably, as Mike's taxi is taxed and has to be taxed because it just got roadworthiness, something didn't connect somewhere, but we're waiting. And Carol said, Andy, regarding doctor's appointments, I've waited 4.5 weeks for a doctor's appointment. I've had a cough for 10 weeks now. There's a lot of that going around, isn't there? This 6-month cough, little or no voice, plus an old replacement shoulder that stopped working and is very painful. I would need to go and see a GP to get an orthopedic referral. I'm actually going tomorrow. It's been 4.5 weeks and it's felt very, very long. I know that when I get there, the waiting room will be empty because Carol says it always is. The whole practice since COVID has been rubbish. Snippy receptionists, they want to know why you want to see the doctor, and I find myself with no confidence in this service whatsoever. Things seem to have changed, don't they? John in Andreas says, look, Andy, the bus van in are clueless. It's John's words, by the way. No service to Cregneash, and now they've sold the bus shelter in Derby. Well, there is a story behind that. That's not quite the truth, and we'll get to that shortly. I waited 6 weeks for an appointment, was told the doctors were fully booked, and when I got there, nobody, not a soul in the waiting room. The doctor wasn't even there. I had to wait 20 minutes after appointment time. That's late morning. There are 4 doctors in this surgery, and I never saw anyone until mine walked in. So, any thoughts? Text, email, call, WhatsApp. It's Julian now. Hello, Julian.
Seems to be very difficult to get this 28 bus going again, doesn't it?
It's weird, isn't it? And the thing is, I know there are probably all sorts of things about the roster of drivers and time and this, that and the other, but it's when government can move lightning fast when it wants to do something, it seems that, getting a bus sounds fairly routine, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. It seems that there wasn't much delay in putting an ANPR camera on Ridgeway Street, although I thought we were told the reason for that was to identify people on the boat and coming off the boat. So I don't know why it's on Ridgeway Street.
Maybe they're just trying it out.
Speaking of inertia, yesterday's huge electrical blackouts had affected 50 million people across Spain, Portugal, parts of France. Shut down everything from traffic lights, running water, lifts, street lights, much more. It's pretty much a complete shutdown. Interesting to note, 3 years ago, a report from the European Network of Transmission System Operators for Electricity that represents 43 different electrical providers around Europe warned on page 14 of that report of the reduction of total system inertia by replacing gas, coal and nuclear turbines with solar panels and wind farms, and it would result in severe electrical grid instability and something called desynchronization. So basically, what they're getting at is the heavy moving parts of an electrical turbine like we've got at Pulrose, which can weigh up to 50 tons, has a lot of inertia or resistance to change in speed, and it acts like a shock absorber if the electrical grid has surges or loss in power. Solar panels and wind turbines are changing their electrical output all the time because of the vagaries of the weather. And it makes it more difficult to maintain a steady frequency. And in Europe and the UK, we rely on a frequency of 50 hertz. what you might call dirty electricity coming in from the renewables, because they're changing all the time. 2 weeks ago, Spain announced that it had achieved 100% electrical cover from renewables. Yeah. But yesterday, excessive solar output in the southwest of Spain appears to have caused massive grid instability, which resulted in cascading faults across the entire network.
Is this what they mean when they said an extraordinary atmospheric event caused it?
Well, it's kind of interesting that they say that, but they don't specify what it is. I spoke to some friends yesterday in Lisbon and also in central Spain, and they said it was a nice spring day, 23 degrees, not particularly cold at night. So we don't know what that is. But at the time yesterday, Portugal was taking a large proportion of electricity from Spain via interconnectors, which suddenly collapsed at 12:34 local time when the sun was close to its peak height. The grid frequency became destabilized, forcing France to pull the plug on the Spanish end of their interconnector before its own grid became destabilized. And I just think this, as you said earlier, calls into question the wisdom of installing an intermittent wind farm on the island, as well as increasing our reliance on interconnectors from the UK.
Well, you would hope that the people who are in the electricity industry, that they know all this, and they should be able to build something in that will cope, as you say, with this dirty electricity, with the vagaries and the fluctuations. You would have thought these people get paid a fortune. Surely they knew this already. Surely they did.
Well, I don't know, but I mean, Ed Miliband has stated recently that he wants to accelerate the rollout of renewables by pruning planning oversight and regulations. And if you remember, I said a few weeks ago, the UK came very close to a similar collapse to Spain and Portugal, and they had to import from a Belgian interconnector at £5,000 a megawatt hour instead of 90, which is the usual price. And this is getting worse and worse as renewables are coming on stream in the UK network. And I think on average, Spain now is at 56%. So it seems the UK is sort of trying to catch up.
Yeah.
But are we going to start to see this kind of problem? You know, we're losing that heavy turbine impetus that keeps the network flowing. When you start having solar panels and wind farms and things like that, you lose that big kind of stabilizing, heavy, inertial, big metal drums keeping the system pushing forward. So,
well, we don't know. I mean, that's a problem. Everything about this is hindsight. We don't, because we've never been here before. But you would have thought, Spain being the sunny country that it is, that they know, you know fairly well that the sun is going to shine predominantly in Spain. So you would have thought that they'd planned all this. These people would have got their algorithms out and know full well what's going to happen. Obviously, something has gone catastrophically wrong, but nobody quite knows. And they've swore blind. It's nothing to do with, there's not been a cyber attack. So, but then again, who knows? Maybe they wouldn't fess up to a cyber attack.
Well, 2 weeks ago, the European Court of Auditors warned that the grid, increasing the renewables, was having balancing issues. Well, this is exactly what I'm talking about. If you start having that frequency moving around, you'll start having trips going off all over the place, which it appears to be what's happened yesterday, and it's just cascaded across 50 million people. They're saying it's the largest power interruption outage in European history.
Well, one thing, at least it wasn't winter. It would have been a lot worse if it had been winter.
Absolutely. No, I quite agree with you.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Julian.
Thanks, Andy.
25 past 12. You have to wonder how many tens of thousands of the target of 500,000 visitors will never return to the Isle of Man because of the tourism experience, says Gaz. Well, thank you, Gaz. Most people enjoy it. That's one thing we have to say, is that most people, when they come here, enjoy being on the Isle of Man. And because we're all very close to it, we know how things used to be, and we notice the difference. Consequently, we will know no bus to Cregneash. If somebody's coming for the first time, well, they don't know. They didn't know that there used to be a bus. But as Julian said, is it that difficult to organise? I mean, how much does it cost? It's a bit like the cost of the mail plane. We never got told how much the post office, Alabama Post, was saving by not paying for the mail plane. Consequently, now we have no airmail. I mean, apart from the couriers who pay to go on the other planes, but we don't have, our letters don't go via airmail anymore because they didn't want to pay the cost, but never told us how much they were saving. So the whole transparency thing kind of comes into question, doesn't it? There's only one word, says Ian, for government's inability to keep a regular service to Cregneash and the Sound, and that's pathetic. It's quite shocking that we're in this situation. We should get rid of some civil servants if needs be. That seems to be the default position, but lots of civil servants do very valuable work. Service to the public is constantly suffering, and it's time the government consider more what the public needs instead of the backdoor techniques to charge the public money. Thank you, Ian. Palatine's the same. Terrible. No help even if you're old and on your own, says 281. Regarding vehicle tax, my wife's had 2 encounters with this, says Gavin. In April 2023, my wife's car was taken from the rear of our house, in spite of it being taxed, insured and roadworthy and legally parked. Got it back with an apology from the snatch company, but not from the DOI. She was stopped again last year by the police, who said her tax had expired. The current disc was on display in the window. It had never been untaxed, and the police officer said it was her responsibility to make sure it had been updated on their system. Get away. Gavin, is that straight? It's your wife's job to tell the police that her details are up to date. Stewie says, Andy, when is this particular petrol selling company going to clean up their manky forecourts, or just leave them in the state that they're in? Some of them belong in the dark ages. Says, I'll leave it to that particular petrol retailer to clean up their manky forecourts. Well, Stewie, send me a photo. That'd be the first thing. Send me a photo of the manky forecourt. Could be the name of the petrol company. You never know that. BP is due to scrap renewables due to huge losses, says John. You will get a doctor's appointment if you've gone for a blood test, whether it comes back clear or with an issue. I'm convinced it's about hitting targets, says Paul. In the past, your bloods were clear. You got a phone call from the receptionist. Now you have to go in and see the doctor. Is this about target numbers, says Paul. Have you tried to get a GP appointment lately? If so, what is your experience? Is it routine? Is it easy? Is it difficult? And when you get there, is there ever a crowded waiting room? Thanks also to the John, the 28 Cregneash and Sound bus. I appreciate many people are asking for the bus to return to service, but why did the service reduce and then stop? It must have been because the passenger numbers were dwindling, otherwise Bus Mannin wouldn't have withdrawn a successful service. Can you get the passenger figures for the past 5 years? We'll try, John. We'll try.
Hi, Liz. I see you've had your garage converted. We're desperate for more room.
Yes. Come through and have a look. John called Manx Property Conversions. We now have an extra bedroom, but it could be another reception room, kids' playroom or office. They also did our conservatory roof last year. We were so impressed, we got them back to convert the garage.
Wow, I need that. What's their number again?
Call MPC on 450 500. That's 450 500. Or find them on Facebook at Manx Property Conversions.
Order! In this case for Manx Car Store, let's review the facts. Firstly, you handpick an excellent range of quality cars for all budgets, are a trusted car sourcing specialist, you knowingly open 7 days a week, and are subject to an excessive number of 5-star web reviews. How do you plead?
Guilty.
Very well. This court hereby declares Manx Car Store 5-star.
Don't take their word for it. Find out for yourself. Visit manxcarstore.com or find them on Facebook.
Discover a fabulous range of watches, gifts and jewellery at Ramsey Art Gallery. With top brand watches from Bulova, Citizen Eco Drive and Storm to Acura, Seconda and Timex. Plus, all watch purchases come with free lifetime watch bracelet adjustment service. There's stunning gold and silver jewellery, gifts for all occasions, and of course a fabulous gallery of limited edition prints and original artworks. Find all this and more at Ramsey Art Gallery, Jewellers and Engravers, opposite Ramsey RNLI shop.
Find a hidden gem in the Isle of Man, the Abbey Restaurant Ballasalla. This old country house offers a relaxed and sophisticated atmosphere where you can wind down with unique and interesting fresh food and drinks. From dinner with fine wines to tea and exquisite cakes. Enjoy our fantastic lunch menu with fresh specials or join us for afternoon tea and dinner. To book, click theabbey.im, find The Abbey on Facebook or call 822 393.
You're never fully dressed without a smile.
Yes, this is the week to put on your very best smile. Smash that song, perfect that poem, and come to the Villa Marina, the home of the Manx Music, Speech and Dance Festival. There from now until Saturday, May the 3rd. Can't get to the Villa? We've got you covered. Follow the Guild right here on Manx Radio with daily breakfast reports, a highlights programme every evening at 9, plus videos and podcasts at manxradio.com. Your complete Manx Music Festival station.
Smile, darn you, smile!
Manx Radio's coverage of the Manx Music Festival is brought to you with Spectrum Windows. The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
And Ken as well. Hi, Ken.
Good afternoon to you. Due to the recent local elections, I looked at the electoral roll, and the wife and I, who are both 70, I was surprised that there was a J by our name for jury service.
Right.
I didn't realise the upper age limit had gone up to 75.
Is it 75 now?
It is, yes. I just spoke to the Cabinet Office.
Right.
They said it's 75.
Okay.
And they basically said, well, I said to them it wasn't really advertised. Well, that's not our job to tell people you're out, you're voting now. There's a different section of government. Anyway, just let people know it's 75.
75. Have you ever done jury service?
Yeah. I've been called twice, didn't serve, and I knew somebody that was a chief witness, so I was eliminated.
Okay.
But the bus service, talking about buses, people's never going to get the number 8 back in the summer months that goes straightly from Peel down to south.
You don't think, isn't that going to come back?
No, I don't think so, no. But, well, it depends how they work out. Passenger figures might have been all right, because most Manx people who go on the bus, when they've got time, don't pay, do they? Because we've all got our bus passes. So it depends on whether they look at money situation or passenger figures. So best to look for the people. And of course, in the Arble, there's nothing at the Arble apart from a good view, because I don't think the cast operating.
No, is the cafe open now at the Arble?
I didn't think it was. It might be now, but I don't think it was.
All right. Well, if anybody knows if it is, then get in touch.
I've been on the bus before to get to Foxdale.
Yeah.
And it goes to the Arble and then goes to Foxdale. It's a bit by Patrick Road. There's about 2 of us on the bus.
2?
Yes.
Wow.
Not very popular. No, but the 28 though, I cannot see the sense in not having a bus in the summer running the 28.
Yeah, well, they can guarantee nobody's going to be on the bus because the bus isn't there anymore. But it would be nice to know, know, if the numbers have been going down and down, they'll know better than anybody. But it would just be nice if there was some sort of liaison committee with passengers where you would know these sort of things.
Yes, and they say, as for the 8 service, we did put thing in, but of course it's not as many people complained as down south, so maybe that's the reason why they didn't reinstitute the 8 in the summer only.
Okay. All right. Appreciate it,
Okay.
Ken. Thanks for calling today.
Bye.
Good to hear from you. Could you ask if anybody's had to cancel their Isle of Man ferry and been charged 100%, i.e. tickets cost 113, cancellation costs 113? Is this a thing now? WhatsApp 330. It feels like a rip-off to me. We were due to go in 2.5 weeks' time. It's not like it was a few days before, or they've had to resell a seat. We got 100% refund from our hotel, so I don't know why the Steam Packet can't do the same. Again, is this happening now? Have you cancelled on the Steam Packet and had a cancellation cost? A note in saying Palatine Doctors is about 6 weeks for an appointment. This is 830. And Andy said in December 2023, I saw a specialist and he said he could do the operation, but he was waiting for 3 months to decide if I want it done. I'd got 3 months to see if I wanted it done. That was meant to be in March 2024. I'm still waiting. Palatine's great. I always get in there lately, so what's your experience? Palatine Doctors are very good. That's WhatsApp 528. Back to the phones, and Bonzo's with us. Hello, Bonzo.
Hello there, yes. Just hearing whomever it was a little while ago who was asking about how long or whether they could have the passenger figures for the 28 for the last 5 years. Well, I think they might have a bit of a job with that, because I can't recall the 28 running after COVID. So, correct me. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't recall it running, for the past few years.
Did it not come back after COVID?
Not that I remember, but I can stand to be corrected on that. But as far as I remember, no, it wasn't.
Well, if anybody can put us straight, then by all means do. When did the 28 last run continuously?
Yeah. Well, as to also putting the service back. Well, I think Michelle Hayward has really put her intention on that in big letters, that she wants it back, and she wants it back as soon as possible. And I dare say that Joni Farragher, who is the departmental member in charge of infrastructure for bus planning, I dare say she fully agrees. But the problem is probably process, in that various things about funding and the allocation would have to go through Treasury approval.
Yeah.
And then it would come back, and there are probably pieces of financial regulation, etc. So much as though, both Michelle and Joni would probably like to just press a button and make it happen and take one of those sprinter buses that seem to spend a lot of time loitering in the bus yard in Port Erin by the station. No, they can't do that because of procedure. So it will take... sadly, it will take time. However, hopefully there'll be some impetus on that now, and things. We'll have to get past TT week, I should think, but hopefully, things then after that would go. Would start happening. But also with the gentleman who was talking about the number 8 bus service between Peel and Port Erin. They laid on the original times of it were so inconvenient as to, there's a bus out to Peel at sort of 9 in the morning, and then the bus back from Peel is at 2:30 in the afternoon. And that's the only one. Now, that was pretty impractical. But they did, for one summer, trial a service during the weekend evenings. Friday, Saturday, so that people could come up and down to events in Port Erin and also in Peel, and that was very well supported, I gather. So why that service can't be reinstated for the summer months on a Friday and Saturday, or on a Sunday or something.
But the thing, going back to timetables, Bonzo, my friend Alan, for years, wrote bus timetables, and you can be incredibly flexible with bus timetables and use common sense and know when the most likely time that people are going to go and want to come back. So timetables can be written very conveniently and they can be very useful to people. You just wonder why they would put a timetable on that's palpably unworkable.
Wow, did he work these things out manually? Because,
actually,
the timetables...
Yes, he did years ago.
Yes, I mean, this is the thing. The timetables over the past few years, you needed a degree. You needed a doctorate to be able to decode them, and even then, the buses didn't run to them anyway. So yes, bring back human intelligence into the development of bus timetables, and we might have a damn sight fewer problems.
Okay, all right, good to hear. Thanks, Bonzo.
Bye.
19 minutes before 1. A note in from Ian, who just before I get to that, Mark says, if the DOI send an erroneous ANPR letter to me, can I find them? Well, you could try, Mark. You could try. Ian dropped a note in, just say, on the subject of ANPR, I heard recently that the government is going to be enabling facial recognition software at the ports. Is this happening? Yes. The Home Affairs Minister says that the draft bill will eventually enable the use of facial recognition software at the Isle of Man port, and it's expected to reach the branches of Timble by this summer. Jane Poole Wilson, MHK, the Minister, has been giving evidence to the Constitutional and Legal Affairs and Justice Committee, CLAJ. One of the questions raised surrounded whether or not the use of such software for facial recognition is too invasive for the travelling public. The Chief Officer for the Department of Home Affairs is Dan Davis.
The use of facial recognition is in some ways less invasive in that it will immediately dispose of any images that aren't a match with a criminal image. So whilst it will look at every person passing through, the images are immediately discarded, and it's only when you have a match to a known criminal that person is identified. So we think that it's about layers of security. One is identifying criminals coming through to the island who aren't known to us. There's also something around the use of intelligence to identify when there are criminal movements. And there is another layer which the constabulary are keen, and the department is keen to support the constabulary in using information that is gathered on exactly who is travelling. And the department's view is that if you travel by plane in certain circumstances, you're required to provide information on who you are. It's very difficult, for example, to buy a ticket for cash to fly on a plane direct from the travel agent, and you have to provide the details of your name and address. If you're travelling to Europe, then you have to provide all of your details for onward transmission for the purposes of preventing and detecting crime and terrorism. So we think that putting it on a reasonably, on a similar basis would be proportionate.
There's the Chief Officer of Home Affairs, Dan Davis, with that story. Facial recognition software will be at Ronaldsway Airport as you get off the plane and come in there, and presumably inbound at the sea terminal in Douglas. And you heard what he had to say. I'd like to commend Garth Commissioners on how well Mackle's maintained. It's a beautiful area, and a credit to the Isle of Man. You don't see fly tipping or rubbish. Properties are well maintained with a proactive approach by the Commissioners. Richard F. sent me this. And some people are quick to moan about our special area, though not often quick to pay their wig to keep it up. Right, we'll look at the story of the Derby bus stop in a moment.
Hello, this is Doug Farragher. In conjunction with Manx Radio, I'd like to invite you to join us and learn something about our native Gaelic tongue, the language of man.
At NFU Mutual in Douglas, we have real conversations with our customers, and we know they prefer car insurance they can rely on. Unlike some insurers, we don't charge admin fees for making changes to your policy. With NFU Mutual, your no claims discount is protected if you're hit by an at-fault uninsured driver. Conditions apply. We also include RAC breakdown cover as standard if you break down more than a quarter of a mile from home and the total recovery distance is less than 20 miles from the nearest garage. It's one of the reasons we've been awarded Which Recommended Provider for Car Insurance, January 2025. To discuss quality car insurance, call today on 674 191.
I am one car centre, the place to go. Great choice and prices so low. I am one car centre on Domain Road. Cars of every kind at prices that are hard to find. Visit on Facebook to see the range or call 611-040. Great service, choice and prices low. I am one car centre, the place to go.
Office World, have we got it? Office World, yes we have. Office World.
For all things stationery, from pens, pencils, paper and ink cartridges to desking and seating, Office World has it. Call 666 366. Come down to Spring Valley Industrial Estate, Braddon to find out more of what's in store.
Office World, have we got it? Office World, yes we have. Office World.
Sessionen nation radio vanen.
Gilg 2, Gilg J as Gilg Nera.
Avashan Rish.
A Gilg, the Manx Gaelic, Ginian Amera, the mother tongue of Elian Vannin, the Isle of Man.
Avashan Rish.
You can catch up with more of Manx Radio's Manx language programmes in the weekly podcast Abershen Rish. Say that again.
Avashan Rish.
Shene, that's the one.
Sessionen nation radio vanen.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Messages are out GPs now. Frank says it's hard to book appointments with a GP. Now, what's it going to be like when we get 15,000 more people? We'll see. Carol says on the Niarbol Cafe website, it says temporarily closed. It's been closed for 3 years. Just rang Peel Medical Centre for an appointment, told they've got no appointments available, try again tomorrow. They only released so many appointments so far ahead. I'm not happy, says Phil. We'll get well soon, whatever it is. And a note in from 289 says Niarbol Cafe's been closed for about 3 years. No Waterfall Hotel, no Ballacallan. What are we doing? The story about this bus shelter in Derby has been exciting opinion. So this has all been on social media. Planning permission has been put in to break up the entrance to the Threshold bus shelter and put a door on the back of it. The shelter will be turned into a storage shelter. People have until the 16th of May to object. This will mean that anybody getting the bus won't have access to a shelter when the weather is bad, be this children getting the school bus or elderly people using the bus or anything else. So we looked into this and found out that there's somebody who actually owns this. The plot at number 1, which includes the shelter, was bought from the government many years ago. Since then, it's been owned and maintained and cleaned by the owner. The abuse of it has been previously mentioned in social groups. It's been met with hostility. The continued abuse of the structure along with hostility has forced the application to do this, to basically brick it up so nobody can go in it. The owner has been subject to all sorts of abuse online, so what they're doing is basically bricking it up, and invites anybody who wants to come and join in during TT, if they're hospitable, to join him. He's not really bothered, he says, with the abuse, but it's the abuse and the associated stink and mess and associated work that it caused him is coming to an end. Point to note is that he's been to the bus depot and spoken to the people who are in charge of the Isle of Man shelters and advised them of the misuse, requesting that they build another one elsewhere prior to this one being demolished or closed off. So the owner of the land and the bus shelter says, for those people who think they've got some kind of right to continue to make a mess on land and property that I've owned and maintained for many years, you have a choice. Pay the fee and object to the proposed changes, which will then result in its demolition, or chase Bus Vannin for swift installation of a replacement shelter sited elsewhere. Whichever way it goes, my garden and my property will no longer be used as a place to smoke drugs, litter, loiter, or use as a toilet. And that's the owner of the bus shelter at the Threshold in Derby. So where's the nearest one then? I mean, if he owns it, then obviously he can do what he wants. But where is the nearest covered shelter. It must be about a mile away. Presumably, somebody must have responsibility to put up a bus shelter in by the threshold. So if you've got any thoughts on that, or you know a little more about it, then do tell me. Pete said, Andy, the evening bus from Port Erin to Peel was paid for by the traders, not bus van. Is that true, Pete? 625. And JB said, I'm glad about the facial recognition. It's good. About time security was tightened, 404. Regarding blood test results, they can be seen on the Patient Access app. You have to register and you go to order medication. Also, their My Practice in Ballasalla are very good, says Richard. A lot of this is down to getting the app, isn't it? If you can get the app, then it's okay. Can anybody tell me who's responsible for the maintenance of service lanes, says H on 768. One of my neighbours neglects their property and their back fence is falling down and threatening to block my service lane. My back-to-back neighbour and I will then be unable to take our bins to the end of the service lane. So what happens then? Whereabouts are you, H? There may be local authorities who'd get involved in that. If anybody's got any advice, then do get in touch. Some GPs, says Anna, appear to be working part-time, for example, 3 days a week. I've even noticed a GP's name from others' practice on one of the listed GP practice doors. The opportunity to have reliable appointments concerning long-lasting and complicated medical problems has to be causing risk, as the doctor you see has to read so many comments on records to even get a slight insight into the problems being faced. As a very attentive and caring GP went off work for a good period due to personal reasons, her recommended need for CT scans wasn't picked up by anybody else in the practice, and I was waiting for months for a CT scan that finally involved a very serious operation. Due to being passed around a previous practice like an unwanted gift, I waited for a consultation with a specialist on a matter for a number of years because my records have been mistakenly archived by a previous practice. I'm sure I'm just one of many who will have encountered problems like this. How many, says Anna, have quietly died, I wonder. Tony's with us now. Hi, Tony.
Hi.
Very well, thanks. It's a lovely day.
It is indeed. It's a really nice day to stand at a bus stop as well. But the problem is, and this is somebody at Bus Fanning or somebody in the DOI, has decided to put bus stops within the zigzag lines of zebra crossings. And that is illegal because the bus is actually stopping across the crossing and within the zigzag lines. So if you were to do that, that's 3 points in your licence. So my question is, which idiot in either Bus Vanning or DOI decided this was a good idea? Now I understand it's a good idea to put the stop near a crossing. I understand that. But in lots of cases, they're so close, the bus is actually parking illegally and causing potentially other people who are trying to get past to overtake the bus within the zigzag lines, again causing offence.
Right, so there's no exemption then, is there, for public service vehicles?
Well, there shouldn't be exemption for anybody because that's the law. And if there is an exemption, then they shouldn't be using it. But since DOI do exactly what they want, maybe they think they don't need to follow the law.
Whereabouts is this, Tony?
Well, there's one in Ramsey, for sure, and I've noticed dozens of other places. Go and have a look. Whenever you're driving round, if you look, you'll find bus stops, often parked near zebra crossings, but they're parked there, they're put in such a way that the bus stops within the zones of the red zebra crossing, which is illegal.
Well, surely you would expect somebody to, would the constabulary pick that up?
No, the constabulary won't bother because why would you bother nicking a bus driver? So my issue is, what idiot decided it was a good idea to start with? And if it is such that, they're exempt, well, we need to stop them being exempt because that's wrong. I mean, everything in the government, they say, we've got an exemption for that. They don't want to have, for instance, this idea of having a group that looks after a quango, that looks after all the housing, They don't want that because if they did that when they hand the housing over, it would be under normal rules. So then they would have to adhere to what they've made all basically the people who rent houses out. Because they've got all sorts of rules that DOI and the housing group are not covered by because they've got an exemption. So we need to stop all these exemptions for government and say, if we've got a law, it should apply to everybody, not just to Bill Bloggs and Fred, and we've got an exemption because we're the DOI.
Okay.
It's got to stop.
All right.
Just it's causing potentially somebody's going to get killed at some stage.
Well, more to the point, why would you? Somebody would have to be knowingly breaking the law to do that.
Well, I've watched people drive past it. I've watched people drive past the bus, and it's parked such that you can't see what's coming because it's there's a bend slightly after it. It's basically at the crossroads of the old Methodist Hall there.
All right. Okay, Tony, we got to go. We're out of time now.
It's okay. Take care, Andy. All the best.
All right. This coming Friday.
I thought in the end that one of the things I can offer to the town is the experience I've gained with being in government, which I hope will help Castletown Commissioners to move forward.
Former Chief Minister, Transport Minister, Tourism Minister, MHK, Commissioner in the 1970s, now Commissioner in 2025. This coming Friday, Tony Brown is on. As it stands now, we're going to have 3 former ministers back as commissioners and councillors. David Cretney for Douglas City Council, Ray Harmer in Peel in the commissioners, and Tony Brown in Castletown Commissioners. I'll be fascinated to hear. Tony Brown, you want to call and get in touch with Tony on Friday, text, email, call or WhatsApp. You can leave a message on the answer phone 682-631 or email manninline@manxradio.com. But in the meantime, tomorrow, Wednesday, we're open line on Mannin Line. Thanks to Howie on the phones today. Enjoy the gorgeous weather.
WINT